You were told it was a game, a dare whispered in the corners of sleepovers and school bathrooms. Stand in front of a mirror, say her name 3 times, wait, maybe the lights flicker, maybe you feel something watching, maybe nothing happens at all, and that's supposed to be the end of it. But it never felt like a game, did it? There's something about the mirror that makes your breath catch, something ancient and wrong. You know it's your reflection staring back, but for a moment, it feels like a performance. As if the thing inside is pretending to be you, as if it's waiting for you to blink first. The story of Bloody Mary has been repeated so often it's become a joke, a cultural shorthand for childhood fear. But the deeper you look into her name, the more you begin to understand something unsettling. This isn't the story of a woman who comes when called. This is the story of someone who remembers being forgotten. And the mirror is her wound. Because every culture has feared mirrors. In ancient Rome, they were believed to hold a piece of your soul. In Jewish folklore, mirrors are covered when someone dies to prevent the spirit from being trapped. In Eastern Europe, broken mirrors were said to open the door between this world and the one beneath. Glass is not just a surface, it's a passage. And when you stare long enough, something might stare back. Not out of malice, but memory. And what of the woman herself? Some say she was Queen Mary of England, nicknamed Bloody Mary for the Protestant executions during her reign. Others say she was a vengeful witch, betrayed by villagers. Some believe she's the soul of a mother who lost her child. But none of these stories explain why she waits in mirrors. None explain why the ritual works, why the number 3, why the darkness, why the name. These aren't coincidences. They're incantations. When you speak her name, you're not calling her. You're offering context. You're reminding her of the role the world gave her, one soaked in blood, silence, and reflection. And if she appears, it isn't because she wants to harm you. It's because she sees herself in you. And if she doesn't appear, maybe it's because you weren't interesting enough. Or maybe it wasn't her you summoned. Welcome back to Tales from the Forbidden Library. Tonight, we uncover the true story behind the name you've whispered into glass. Not the version told to frighten children, not the meme, the one that was buried, bound, and reflected back to us in pieces. Long before the name Bloody Mary echoed in school hallways and fogged bathroom mirrors, there were stories of women who appeared in reflections, not as specters, but as witnesses. In medieval Europe, it was believed that reflective surfaces could trap the essence of a soul, and that some souls, usually women wronged in life, lingered there, not by choice, but by ritual. They weren't summoned, they were remembered wrong. The tale of Bloody Mary is often pinned to Queen Mary the Y of England. Known for her brutal persecution of Protestants, her reign earned her the infamous nickname. Her history is soaked in blood, yes, but the link to the mirror ritual is tenuous at best. No accounts from the time mention mirrors, no spells, no reflection. So why has her image endured? Because her name, Mary, became a cipher, a container, not for her legacy, but for every nameless woman whose memory was shattered. In Eastern European villages, there were stories of mirror witches, women accused of scrying, of seeing too much, of speaking to spirits through bowls of water or polished silver. One such tale tells of a widow who lived near a lake. They said she could see the future, but only in reflections. One night, the villagers dragged her from her home, smashed every mirror, and drowned her. But afterward, children reported seeing her eyes in puddles, windows, frosted glass. She had no name. So when the legend of Bloody Mary spread, she borrowed it. In older Slavic myths, the mirror was called the second eye of the soul. Breaking it didn't just invite bad luck, it released what was watching. Some tales speak of bride mirrors, kept veiled before weddings to prevent the wrong spirits from attaching to the bride's reflection. Others warn of mirrors kept too close to the dying, lest they carry the last breath into glass. And then there's the witch's mirror. In occult circles, a black mirror, usually obsidian or polished stone, is used not to reflect the self, but to reflect what hides behind the self. Some practitioners claim that when used improperly, it doesn't show your future. It shows the one who wants your future, who waits in stillness, who only needs you to ask the wrong question. That's what the Bloody Mary ritual really is. Not a joke, not a prank, but a question, asked without knowing the answer. Why do you think her name has power? Because names are offerings, names are bindings, and Mary is not her name. It's the only thing left after the rest was scraped away. When you chant it 3 times, you're not calling her. You're repeating the forgetting. You're saying, "We erased you once. We'll do it again." And she hears that. She always has. She's been in the mirror far longer than the story has existed. Watching, learning, waiting for the tale to twist just enough for her to step back through. At first glance, the Bloody Mary ritual seems absurd. Say her name 3 times, face a mirror, stand in the dark, maybe spin around, maybe light a candle. Everyone has heard a different version, passed like a virus across playgrounds and sleepovers. But the variations aren't mistakes, they're fragments of something older. The ritual works because it's been broken and rebuilt so many times, like a charm that only activates when told through fear. 3 repetitions. It's always 3. Why not 2? Why not 4? Because 3 is a sacred number in countless traditions. Body, mind, and spirit. Birth, life, and death. Past, present, future. 3 is a ritual rhythm, a pulse that draws something closer with each echo. In witchcraft, it's the number that opens, anchors, and seals. Say her name once, and you awaken memory. Say it twice, and you draw attention. Say it 3 times, and the veil listens back. And why the mirror? Mirrors were once believed to be windows into the soul, not simply tools of reflection. In some cultures, they were placed facing outward in windows to ward off evil. In others, they were turned toward the wall when not in use, to prevent something else from watching through them. When you gaze into a mirror in darkness, you see something your mind struggles to process. Your own face begins to distort. Known as the Troxler effect, your brain fades out details it can't hold on to in low light. But in ritual context, this distortion becomes symbolic. Your identity slips, your face fractures, and something else can wear it. Candles. Why always candles? Because flame is the oldest offering. Fire is presence. 1 flame offers warmth. 2 creates tension. 3, invitation. The candle isn't for light. It's for her. It says, "You are allowed here." And when the flame flickers, it isn't always because of wind. Some versions tell you to spin. This isn't child's play either. In ceremonial magic, turning widdershins counterclockwise is a way of undoing, of stepping out of time's forward flow. To spin in darkness before invoking a name is to disorient the world around you, to make it pliable, vulnerable. So when you say Bloody Mary 3 times, standing in the dark before a mirror, you are performing more than a dare. You are confessing belief. You are offering your reflection as an altar, and you are asking a question you don't understand. But what is the question? It's not, "Are you there?" It's not, "Will you show yourself?" It's, "Am I the one you've been waiting for?" Because not everyone sees her. Not everyone deserves to. But for those whose fear is pure enough, whose curiosity bleeds into reverence, the mirror will change. You won't hear a scream. You won't see her lunge. You'll simply notice your own face. Twitch. Late. Off sync. Holding a smirk you didn't feel. And in that moment, the question will be answered. She is there. She has always been there. And now she's watching from behind your eyes. Most people believe mirrors simply reflect. They show you what you are. Hair out of place, shadows under the eyes, the faint trace of time moving across your face. But in ancient traditions, a mirror was never passive. It was considered a witness, a silent archivist of everything it's seen. And if you spend long enough looking into one, you begin to wonder, what if it remembers more than you do? Folklore across the world suggests that mirrors are not just surfaces, but thresholds. In Persian mythology, mirrors were seen as vessels for truth, revealing spirits and lies. In some African traditions, mirrors were buried with the dead to trap wandering souls and prevent them from returning. And in Eastern Europe, it was said that a mirror left uncovered in a room with grief would eventually learn to weep on its own. In this light, Bloody Mary isn't just an entity behind the glass. She is the consequence of what the mirror has been forced to hold. Every glance, every fear, every child who stared into it hoping to see something unnatural. The ritual feeds the glass with intention. It tells the mirror, don't just reflect, respond. And mirrors respond in strange ways. Have you ever seen your reflection move a beat too late? Or felt like the version of you in the glass wasn't matching your eyes, your thoughts, your posture? Psychologists might call it pareidolia or visual fatigue, but occult practitioners see something else. They believe a mirror can absorb enough of your presence to form a kind of echo, a fragment of you left behind. Not a soul, exactly, but a copy, a memory, a footprint. When you perform the Bloody Mary ritual, the question isn't whether she shows herself. It's whether the mirror chooses to show you something you didn't know it had kept. Some say it begins slowly. Your face seems too still, your blink delayed, the light in your eyes too dim. Others claim they saw another figure entirely, not Mary, not themselves, just a woman watching, face flickering like candlelight on water. Sometimes she's sad, sometimes she's furious, sometimes she smiles in recognition. These aren't hallucinations, they're leaks. The mirror remembers everyone who has ever called her, all the children, all the doubters, all the believers. And in doing so, it weaves a tapestry of broken intentions. Bloody Mary doesn't exist as a single figure. She's a composite, a chorus of forgotten women, their stories twisted, their names erased, their faces blurred into something that looks vaguely human, vaguely you. This is why mirrors were once covered after death. Not to prevent the dead from entering, but to prevent them from seeing what's been remembered about them. Mirrors don't forget. They carry grief like water holds shadow. And if you look too long, you might see not only what you are, but what the mirror thinks you've become. What if your reflection isn't bound to follow you anymore? What if it's tired of being just a witness? There are stories, quiet ones, often brushed aside, that speak not of Bloody Mary appearing, but of something staying behind after the ritual is done. The mirror goes still, the lights come on, and the child walks away laughing. But sometimes, when they come back hours later, or days, something in the reflection is wrong. It's still them. Same clothes, same posture. But the face, subtly, imperceptibly, isn't theirs anymore. One woman recalled seeing her reflection blink when she hadn't, not dramatically, just enough to register a delay. She leaned in, waved her hand, blinked again. Everything seemed normal. Until the next morning when she passed the hallway mirror and caught a glimpse of herself with her eyes already open, though she hadn't turned her head yet. It was her face, but the timing was all wrong. In another account from a small town in Maine, a girl performed the ritual at a slumber party. Nothing happened, at least, nothing anyone saw. But over the next month, her parents noticed her becoming quiet, withdrawn, and increasingly uncomfortable with mirrors. One morning, she refused to go into the bathroom at all. When asked why, she whispered, "Because the girl in there doesn't want me to come back." These aren't isolated stories, they're patterns. In folklore archives, particularly those collected from rural regions of Russia, Poland, and northern Germany, there are reports of mirror echoes, reflections that detach slightly, act strangely, or seem to follow different emotional cues. Often they begin after a summoning or after a death, and once the echo forms, it rarely disappears. The terrifying implication is this: not all faces in the mirror belong to someone on this side. Some are passengers, left behind by those who didn't close the ritual correctly. Some are fragments, pieces of people that once looked into the mirror with fear so potent it etched them into the silver backing like a burn. And some are hers. Because Bloody Mary, as she exists now, isn't a singular ghost. She's a network of reflections, tethered across generations, whispering through the thin glass veil. Her power isn't in what she does when summoned, it's in what she leaves behind. In the lingering glances, in the split-second delays, in the moment you're alone. But the mirror doesn't agree. Mirrors are portals, yes, but sometimes they're containers too. And when you walk away, it's possible something else chooses to stay, blending in with your smile, your posture, your movements. And you'll never notice until the people around you do. Because it's not always the face in the mirror that's off. Sometimes it's the one in the room. Every legend begins somewhere, even the ones that seem stitched from shadows. So who was Bloody Mary before she became the figure behind the glass? Before her name was chanted in bathroom stalls and playground dares? Who was she before the mirror remembered? There are theories, of course. The most common is Queen Mary V of England, the first daughter of Henry VIII, branded Bloody Mary for her execution of Protestants during her brief, turbulent reign. But while the history is grim, it doesn't quite fit. The mirror ritual didn't begin with her, nor did her story include scrying, spirit summoning, or mirrors at all. Her name was borrowed later as a convenient face to attach to an older fear. Other historians point to Mary Worth, a name that floats through 19th century American folklore. Sometimes she's a witch, other times a cruel noblewoman who bathed in blood to retain her youth. The stories change, the setting shifts, but the ritual, the mirror, the chanting, the flickering candlelight, that remains unchanged. That suggests something deeper, something older, a woman whose name has been rewritten so many times that only the outline of her remains. In Eastern European witch trials from the 14th century, several women were accused of using mirror bowls to speak with the dead. They weren't tortured because they summoned demons. They were feared because they listened, because they heard answers. One was recorded as saying, "The mirror is not a window. It is a face turned inward, and it watches back." She was executed. Her name struck from the records. In pre-Christian Slavic lore, there were entities known as zerkalnica, mirror women. Spirits believed to be born from grief, so potent it imprinted itself on glass. These beings were neither alive nor dead, neither gods nor ghosts. They were reflections that remembered. They could be summoned by name, but only if the summoner believed they'd been forgotten. And the price for summoning was not death, but identity. The zerkalnica would appear, and then decide who deserved to stay. These stories, scattered, fragmented, whispered, converge in one chilling possibility. Bloody Mary is not a ghost, not a queen, not a single cursed soul. She is a consequence, a convergence of forgotten women, silenced seers, erased names, burned pages. Her form shifts because she was never allowed to be whole. Her name echoes because it's the only thing history couldn't kill. And the mirror? The mirror is not her prison. It is her tombstone. Polished smooth, so that every time we look into it, we unknowingly pay our respects. When you say her name, you aren't calling her from sleep. You're awakening her in yourself. Because what if she wasn't the one behind the glass? What if the face in the mirror was always yours, just a version that remembered too much? The truth is, the mirror was never neutral. From the moment humanity learned to see itself, we feared what might be looking back, not because of vanity, not even because of spirits, but because deep down, we suspected the reflection wasn't ours alone, that something older, more wounded, more watchful, shared the space behind the glass, waiting for the right name, the right ritual, the right moment of fear disguised as curiosity. And somehow, we gave her one. Bloody Mary. Not her real name. Not even close. Just the echo that survived. A placeholder for a woman, or perhaps women, lost to time, rewritten by whispers, then reassembled into something mythic. We made her into a monster so we wouldn't have to ask why the mirror responds at all. Because if you strip away the game, the dare, the candles and chants, what's left is something primal. A human impulse to confront the unknown. And when that unknown answers with your own face, different, delayed, or smiling at the wrong time, you understand the terrible truth. She was never summoned. She was always there, watching through polished silver and still water, waiting in every unanswered prayer whispered before glass, building herself from the fragments of the forgotten, from the weeping, the executed, the silenced. And the mirror? That's not her door. It's her body. Built from centuries of looking-glass myths, fragments of old faith, and the blood-soaked stories we tell when the lights go out. We thought she came from mirrors, but the mirrors came from her, born of a need to remember what we tried to erase. She doesn't appear because we say her name. She appears because, in saying it, we confess we still see her. And that recognition is the most dangerous form of resurrection. So the next time you're alone in a room and you catch your reflection watching you just a little too closely, don't speak, don't blink, and for heaven's sake, don't turn away. Because she isn't trying to take your life. She's waiting for you to offer your place in it.